tonight on First at 9 this Saturday the 27th of September 2025. Asian Connection. President Derana arrives in Japan to a warm welcome. Several key visits lined up, bolstering Sri Lanka-Japan relations. Turbulent protests. Tensions reach tipping point in Mana as protesters voice outrage against a proposed wind power plant. Government straying away from its public mandate, claims the Frontline Socialist Party. Snitch alert. Inside informants within the police service tipped off underworld figures Kehel Badarapadme and Commando Salintha, revealed the police. Export status. Sri Lanka's apparel exports down 1.33% in August 2025 compared to the corresponding period last year.
Kalin baby soap rupial 90කට. Kalin baby podi හැමෝටමයි.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Drisingha joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Brought to you by the only Sri Lankan media network to rise to the pinnacle across all media platforms, recognized as the best by every survey and beloved by the people. Now in your top story tonight, President Derana, currently on his first state visit to Japan, arrived at Kansai Airport in Osaka this morning. During this stay, the President is scheduled to pay a courtesy call on the Emperor of Japan Naruhito and hold a summit discussion with Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba.
President Derana received a warm welcome upon his arrival in Japan, where he was greeted by the Japanese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Akio Isamata, along with a delegation of officials and well-wishers. Undertaking the visit at the invitation of the Japanese government, President Derana will remain in the country until September 30th. During his stay, the President is scheduled to pay a courtesy call on the Emperor of Japan, Naruhito, and hold a summit discussion with Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, focusing on key matters of mutual interest. President Derana is also expected to deliver a keynote address at a business forum in Tokyo, where senior representatives from leading Japanese corporations and business organizations will be in attendance. Meanwhile, during his visit to New York for the UN General Assembly, President Derana attended a special dinner hosted by US President Donald Trump for visiting heads of state. The President's office reported that President Trump extended a warm welcome to the Sri Lankan President and engaged in a cordial conversation during the event, which took place at a hotel in New York. Earlier, President Derana also took part in a ceremony hosted by the French government to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the ratification of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and the Agreement on the Conservation and Sustainable Use of Marine Biodiversity of Areas Beyond National Jurisdiction. Held under the patronage of French President Emmanuel Macron, the event marked a significant milestone as Sri Lanka became the 58th signatory to the BBNJ agreement.
3 individuals were injured last night as tensions reached a tipping point between the police and residents in Mana who were protesting against plans to set up a wind power plant within Mana Island. Despite the protests, authorities transported turbines and other equipment through Mana town under heavy police protection, prompting the protesters to declare that more protests would follow on Monday. Meanwhile, Education Secretary of the Frontline Socialist Party, Pupudu Jagara, warns that the forceful removal of protesters by the police depicts the government straying away from its public mandate.
Residents in Mana have been staging demonstrations for 2 months against the construction of a wind power plant in Mana Island. Pointing out the adverse ecological impact of the power plant's construction, the demonstrators also called for an end to sand mining operations in the area, which pose severe environmental concerns as well. The demonstrations, which have been ongoing for 55 days, escalated last night as contractors brought down turbines and other equipment to commence the power plant's construction. Simmering tensions erupted into violence as the police attempted to remove unyielding protesters in a bid to make way for the convoy carrying turbines and other equipment required for the power plant's construction. During the incident, a few protesters sustained injuries and were subsequently admitted to hospital. After law enforcement cleared all protesters off the road, the convoy passed through Mannar town under heavy police protection. After the police dispersed from the area, the protesters vowed to stage another protest next Monday. In the wake of this turbulent incident, the Frontline Socialist Party's Puputu Jagoda claimed that the forceful removal of protesters by the police is a clear depiction of the government straying away from its public mandate.
About a month and a half ago, the President convened the Citizens Committee for a discussion. At the discussion, the President promised to set up a special committee to probe the concerns raised by residents of Mannar. The President also promised to address the probed concerns through the same committee. Officials attached to the Presidential Secretariat subsequently revealed to the people of Mannar on the 19th of September that a report has been submitted to the President on September 18th. The officials also revealed that the authorities need a week to peruse the report, after which the Citizens Committee will be reconvened for further discussions. After deceiving citizens as such, the Minister of Power and Energy approved on the 22nd of September the transport of the relevant equipment required to construct the power plant. The state-sanctioned attack against protesters in Mannar is a clear depiction of the government straying away from its public mandate and slipping into the realm of public outrage.
Officers interrogating notorious criminals Kehelbaddara Padme and Commander Salintha have uncovered the existence of inside informants within the police service, tipping off the criminal duo on key investigation-related updates as they were evading arrest in Indonesia. Meanwhile, the police have nabbed a key suspect believed to be involved in the murder of late former Minister Mangala Samaraweera's personal secretary.
As law enforcement officials continue to interrogate Kehelbaddara Padme and Commando Salintha, authorities have uncovered that certain police officers were in close contact with the criminal duo, sharing tip-offs of key investigation-related updates, while the criminals were evading arrest in Indonesia. Inside informants had tipped off a man operating under the alias of Darun, particularly revealing the fact that ASP Rohan Olugala has not been seen at his desk for several days. Darun had then tracked the IP address of the ASP's mobile phone, uncovering the fact that the police officer has touched down in Indonesia to arrest the criminals in question. The duo, after being informed of ASP Rohan Olugala's arrival in Indonesia, had fled the hotel within which they were hiding. According to Kehelbaddara Padme, a source within the police service informed him of the Interpol red notice issued for his arrest. Sri Lanka police confirmed corrupt inside informants had been in touch with the underworld criminals continuously. Meanwhile, the Criminal Investigation Unit of Kalaniya recently received intelligence on an individual engaged in the distribution of narcotics while residing at a lodge in Alakanda Wattala. The lodge in question is allegedly owned by an underworld figure operating under the alias Sedavatte Kasun. The lodge was subsequently raided, which led to the arrest of an individual and the seizure of 10 grams of crystal methamphetamine. The suspect was presented to the Valisara Magistrates Court, where a 7-day detention order was granted for further investigations. Following questioning, the police were able to uncover the suspect's connection to several thefts and around 20 other crimes. Further interrogations revealed that the suspect in question aided the recent shooting of late former Minister Mangala Samaraweera's private secretary in Kandana on the 7th of July. The suspect had claimed that he was involved in the crime under directives of underworld figures Kondaranji and Chutimali. During questioning, the suspect had revealed to the police that he was instructed to murder all passengers travelling in the vehicle at the time. Underworld figures Kondaranji and Chutimali had provided the suspect with consignments of crystal methamphetamine valued at around 800,000 rupees on several occasions. Questioning further uncovered that the suspect had also conducted a recent shooting at a residence belonging to underworld criminal known under the alias Harak Baba. According to the suspect, this attack too was committed under instructions of Kondaranji. The suspect had reportedly been introduced to Kondaranji and Chutimali when the suspect was serving a sentence at the Negombo prison over a cattle theft in 2010. The police noted that the arrestee is a 45-year-old heart patient who is suffering from a severe addiction to crystal methamphetamine. Further investigations are conducted by the Crimes Investigation Bureau of the Kalaniya Division. In a separate incident, a 58-year-old individual was killed in a shooting which took place in Sandungama Tissamaharama last evening. The shooting had reportedly taken place at around 5 p.m. when the victim was shot using a homemade Galkatas type firearm, which uses 12-bore ammunition. According to reports, the assailant, who is believed to be a resident of the same area, had arrived in a motorcycle, carried out the shooting and fled the scene. Preliminary investigations revealed that the shooting may have stemmed from a personal dispute. Tissamaharama police have launched further investigations to apprehend the suspect.
On your political updates, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa claims that the opposition will never use election defeats as an excuse to avoid listening to people's concerns. He made these remarks during a public gathering in Anamadua today.
Another iteration of the opposition leaders' mobile service series was held in Villevawa Anamadua today under the patronage of opposition leader Sajith Premadasa.
You are all living happily today. However, some here with us today claimed that all activities at this Dhamma school stopped abruptly as soon as we lost the election. Our Udagammana program also stopped once we lost the election. The voters have endorsed the cessation of these programs. That is one way of looking at it. These efforts came to a halt since voters chose the other party. Had the voters thought differently during the presidential race, then a lot of these issues would have been resolved. They would certainly have been resolved. However, we will never use election defeats as excuses to avoid listening to the people. Keep in mind that not a single cent is allocated for development purposes to parliamentarians in the opposition. Yet, we don't complain about this fact. We did not come here to complain.
Meanwhile, leader of the Sarvajana Balaya, parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira, challenged the government to declare the value of the much talked about NPP party fund. Addressing a gathering in Kesalwatha Panadura, Jayavira reveals that the assets declared thus far by the government MPs amount to a valuation of approximately 1.6 billion rupees.
The Kesalwatha Sarvajana Sabha of the Panadura electorate was established today under the patronage of Sarvajana Balaya leader MP Dilith Jayavira.
If someone is committed to full-time politics, such a person has to be corrupt. That is not up for debate. We took to politics only after setting up legitimate streams of income. We all had the opportunity to peruse the asset declarations of several high-profile individuals. Asset declarations of certain government MPs indicate that they too must have amassed their wealth through unlawful means. We joined Dilith Jayavira's Sarvajana Balaya with trust. We trusted him because his camp is made of competent people. The Sarvajana Balaya does not have any fraudsters, incompetent, corrupt or deceitful individuals. Everyone here picked themselves up and stand on their own feet. Everyone here is extremely patriotic. We are ready to take up the responsibility of this country on your behalf. We are ready to fulfill that responsibility to the best of our ability. I challenged the incumbent president a while back when he was only the leader of the JVP. I asserted that he has access to at least 4 billion rupees through his party headquarters at Palavatta. He then challenged me to show him where all the wealth is hidden and promised to transfer it to me if I do so successfully. Scrutinizing the asset declarations published thus far, the total asset value is estimated at least at 1.6 billion rupees despite obvious underreporting. All entrepreneurs like us might not have underreported since we have legitimate streams of income we can declare. The MPs in question also declare that they have gold in their possession. We are not talking about a small stock of gold here. They themselves claim that they have gold worth 176 million rupees. These were the same individuals who once claimed that their political aides fund all their expenses. Several top ministers and members of parliament have not submitted their asset declarations yet. Their wealth should also be added to this tally. Then my next challenge to the government is to publicly declare the current value of the NPP's party fund.
Now the final rites of 5 monks who lost their lives in the tragic cable car accident in Nauyana Monastery in Kurunagala were conducted today at Pansiyagama Cemetery. The remains of 4 Sri Lankan monks and a Russian monk were buried in Pansiyagama today, while the remains of the Indian monk who passed away in the accident were repatriated to India. The remains of the Romanian monk are scheduled to be repatriated to Romania with the intervention of the Romanian embassy in Sri Lanka. Buddhist clergy, several political figures as well as a large number of devotees paid their final respects to the deceased monks today. 7 monks tragically lost their lives while 6 others were severely injured when a cable car carrying 13 monks crashed down a hill at Nawina Monastery in Pansegama, Kurunegala. With that, here's a look at more local news across the island in brief.
The Sri Lanka Institute of National Tourist Guide Lecturers organised a vehicle parade to celebrate the World Tourism Day held today. The vehicle parade commenced this morning from Galle Fort and concluded at Galle Face, Colombo this evening. Meanwhile, another ceremony to celebrate World Tourism Day was held at the Nanua train station this morning. In other local news, 11 people sustained injuries when a van travelling from Anuradhapura to Badulla crashed into a tree at the first milepost area of Sorobora in Mahiyangana last night. The injured passengers were admitted to the Mahiyangana hospital. 6 of the injured passengers were later transferred to the Badulla hospital for further treatment. The police suspect the driver dozing off behind the wheel to be the cause of the accident. Meanwhile, 2 motorcycles collided head-on in the Parthalwila area along the Bulat Sinhala Molkawa main road, resulting in the death of a 26-year-old motorcyclist. The other motorcyclist, who also sustained critical injuries, was admitted to the District General Hospital, Horana.
Now in other news, the Colombo International Book Fair, South Asia's largest literary event, was inaugurated today at the Bandaranaike Memorial International Conference Hall by Minister of Health and Mass Media Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa. Organised for the 26th consecutive year by Sri Lanka's Book Publishers Association, the fair will take place over 10 days till October 6th from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. This year's event features over 400 stalls showcasing publications from both local and international publishers.
The World Education Fair 2025, entrance free, register now.
Welcome back. Now, Song of Kings, a computer game created by Derana Macrotainment's Mogo Games, was showcased at the Tokyo Game Show 2025. Song of Kings is the first Sri Lankan computer game showcased at this highly acclaimed convention.
Tokyo Game Show, Japan's largest video game festival, is currently underway with over 6 million attendees. The esports show, sponsored by Japan's Computer Entertainment Suppliers Association, kicked off on September 25th and is set to continue until the 28th. The annual event features Japanese video games and also provides a platform for international game developers to showcase upcoming esport launches. Sri Lanka received a special opportunity to shine at Tokyo Game Show 2025 with the showcase of a video game developed by Mogo Games, a subsidiary of Derana Macro Entertainment. The video game titled Song of Kings is the first ever video game developed in Sri Lanka to be showcased at the convention.
අපි අද මේ රැඳී සිටින්නේ ටෝකියෝ වල මකුරු මෙසි කියන හෝල් එකේ Mogo Games විසින් සාදන ලද Song of Kings කියන ගේම් එක පළවෙනි වතාවට ලාංකික කම්පැනියක් වශයෙන් ඉන්ට්‍රොඩක්ෂන් එකක් හැටියට කරන මේ ගේම් එකක් හැටියට අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන්. මේ රටවල් වලින් ගොඩක් කට්ටිය ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේ ගේම් එක ගහලා ඒගොල්ලෝගේ ෆීඩ්බැක් එක දෙනවා. මේක අපි තව මාස 4කින් විතර රිලීස් කරන්න අදහස් කරගෙන තියෙනවා.
Now in other news, Chief Advisor to the President on Digital Economy, Dr. Hans Vijayasuriya, revealed plans to expand the digital sector's contribution from current levels to a substantial 15%, positioning the country to generate an estimated $15 billion. Addressing an event, Vijayasuriya emphasized the strong commitment to compete in an increasingly fast-paced global digital landscape.
The first provincial level program in a series designed to familiarize state executives with the government's digitalization initiatives and the use of AI technology was held yesterday at the Kandy District Secretariat in the Central Province.
As a government, we have implemented a range of initiatives to accelerate the growth of a digital economy. A key objective is to expand the sector's contribution from the current 3% of GDP to a substantial 15%, which would position Sri Lanka to generate an estimated $15 billion, a five-fold increase from today's levels. Currently, the nation's digital workforce comprises approximately 100,000 employees, and we aim to double this figure to 200,000. In parallel, plans are underway to triple digital exports from $1.8 billion to $5.4 billion. To achieve these ambitions, it is imperative that we move beyond traditional frameworks. This transformation will require strong commitment and sustained efforts as we compete in an increasingly fast-paced global digital landscape.
ගෝලීය වශයෙන් බැලුවොත් මේක ඊටාම සීඝ්‍රයෙන් යන රේස් එකක්.
Now in your business news, the Joint Apparel Association Forum yesterday released export performance figures for August 2025, noting a marginal decline in monthly exports compared to the same period last year, alongside steady cumulative growth across the first 8 months of the year. In August 2025, total apparel exports stood at $479.14 million, reflecting a 1.33% decrease compared to August 2024. Exports for the US recorded a modest gain of 0.92%, while shipments to the EU and UK saw declines of 4.83% and 2.6% respectively. Exports to other destinations remained unchanged year on year. Despite the August dip, the sector maintained positive momentum over the period from January to August 2025. Total exports grew by 7.48% to $3.39 billion compared to $3.16 billion during the same period last year. This growth was underpinned by strong demand from the EU, supported by gains in the US, the UK and other markets. That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.